Okay, well, why don't we start?
All the way from
Cameras,
Oh my God.
up.
Zach, you ready?
Yep, okay, good, thank you very much.
Zach,
So,
we're ready.
I'd like to welcome everybody to this March 26th meeting of the City University Construction Fund. And before we continue with the agenda, we do have a new trustee, Dr. McCullough Maxwell. We'd like to welcome her on board.
Here.
You definitely have friends here because
You are so welcome.
yeah, it's so difficult for us to hold meetings because we don't have all of the requisite trustees. So with you here, we'll be in good shape. Why don't we go around the room and just for the new trustees' edification, we'll just have everybody introduce themselves. So I'm Philip Berry, the acting chairman of the construction fund.
Iris Weintraub, I'm the Vice Chancellor of City University for Facilities Management and Construction, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Construction Fund.
And my former neighbor.
I'm Rick Schaefer, Counsel for the Construction Fund and also General Counsel of the University.
I'm Howard Altschuler. I'm the Executive Director for the fund, and I'm also the Executive Director for Financial Management for PCF.
I'm Judy Bertram. I'm Deputy to the Vice Chancellor. I only have one title.
Are you related to the high school?
Yeah,
That's
I
what
am.
I thought. I was there yesterday. It's beautiful.
I'm Mike Stadulous. I'm Director of Construction for Dormitory Authority.
This is my first meeting also. John Pashesnik, I'm the Managing Director of Construction and Downstate Operations for the Dormitory Authority.
Welcome.
I'm Jennifer Friedman, I'm the Director of Public-Private Partnership Projects in the Department of Facilities. Vice Chancellor. I'm Nancy Nichols, Special Assistant to the Fund.
I'm Victor Anaya, I'm Deputy Director of Financial Analysis for Facility Planning, Construction and Management. I'm also the Controller for the Construction Fund.
Controller.
I'm Gwen Perlman. I'm the Director of Capital Budget for CUNY.
I'm Megan Moore-Wilk. I'm the Director of Space Planning for the University.
I'm Bob Lemieux, Executive Director of Design and Construction.
I'm Wellington Chen, Trustee. Welcome.
Good. Thank you.
And we have an alternate.
Good morning, I'm Zach Scartelli, representative for the State Division of the Budget.
Thank you very much.
That's why he's all alone. No one else can hear you.
I just want to say a particular hello to Zach, who we've spoken on the phone a number of times. Now I get to see you for the first time. Zach, this is Rick Schaefer.
After we go through the agenda, just for everybody's information, we are going to do a walkthrough of the new John Jay building, and then after that there'll be lunch. So save your appetites and.
Well, there's only coffee now, so we made sure you were able to.
Yeah, we're balancing the budget
to make sure
here.
that we walk all the way around the building.
That's right.
Right. So the first thing we like to do, I do want to just note that we do have a quorum, and therefore we are able to meet again. And the first action item will be the minutes, the approval of the minutes. I'd like to entertain if there are any amendments to the minutes. If not, then
I'll move them.
okay, thank you very much. Can we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It passes. Thank you very much. The next item, which would be action item number 2, is a resolution for the construction fund approving the filing of IRS Form 990 for the period ending June 30th, 2009. This is a new item. I'll just read the resolution, and then I'll have Howard Altschuler just bring it to why are we seeing this. So resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Construction Fund approves the filing of IRS Form 990 exempt for the period ending June 30th, and each IRS tax filing and the tax filing for each current year thereafter, each fiscal year thereafter. So why are we seeing this?
Over the past several years, probably many of you are aware that there have been IRS issues with not-for-profit corporations. And the IRS has strengthened its regulations regarding not-for-profits, and we technically are 501c3, that's how we file. And they have now added to the 990 a long questionnaire, which you've probably seen in the advanced copy. And one of the questions in the questionnaire is, has the Board of Trustees reviewed the 990 and approved it? So our PKF, our accounting firm, who prepares our 990 and our financial statements, strongly recommended that we take the 990 forms this year and going forward to the board, so that they are aware. And next year, when we file our 990, we will be able to respond to answer the question yes as opposed to no, which is always a good thing when you deal with the IRS. And the resolution that follows this, item number 3, is a resolution on a conflict of interest policy, which, aside from the IRS, is probably a good thing for us to have. One of the questions in the 990 is, do you have a conflict of interest policy? Do you have a whistleblower policy? And in this meeting, we are bringing a conflict of interest policy. In future board meetings, we will bring a whistleblower policy, and there are a couple of others in the questionnaire that we will put into place, so that we can comply with the policy that the IRS is holding 501c3s to, and that's why you see it. The language in the conflict of interest.
Well, why don't we, let's.
You want to wait for that?
First, yeah, because
Sure.
I don't want to, if there are questions, I want to deal with them one by one. So the first is, are there any questions? The trustees should note that on page 10, your name is on the document. Yes, that's something just for you to be aware of, and so it is important that all of the individuals whose names in here are aware of what's in the document. So, and we know it, since this is going to the IRS, and if there are any questions, we ought to be able to address that now. Chairman Smith.
What's the difference between CUNY employees whose compensation is considered reportable from related organization and other CUNY people? Or maybe I've misdescribed the distinction.
You know, I asked the same question.
Right. Particularly for people like Iris, who are actually CUNY members and members of the fund, the accountants told us that the particular interest here is for people who are employees of related entities. I guess that's the correct phrase. And so you'll see the salaries for the CUNY employees who are not directly related to the fund. And for the fund employees, for some reason, the accountants said we did not need to show those salaries.
Are there other CUNY filings, 990s or otherwise, Rick, that do show these people's salaries? So nobody could say we're not being forthcoming?
Well, the people who are on CUNY payroll, that's
you and Iris.
That's public information.
All right, so
Right.
all of these ones that are, because I don't want to challenge the accountants, I just want the minutes to show that the board satisfied itself that the information is in the public domain, so nobody could nobody could raise a question about why Iris's related comp is none, and whereas Bob Lemieux is, I don't want to understand it, I'm fine, but I just want minutes to show that all that material is in the public domain. So,
Well, all of our CUNY salaries is public information. You can actually look it up on the website.
I think it really has more to do, because Iris and myself, we are filing under the fund as opposed to under CUNY,
right.
and the fund pays no salary.
Right.
So that's why it's none.
Okay.
And then the related, it's the 5 highest related entity employees.
Now, with this, this will be filed in June, this
Thi-
particular?
This will get filed probably next week after.
Next week. So,
Assuming the board approves, it'll get filed.
Okay, so what will happen, it will not get filed before the board approves it?
Correct.
Okay, good.
We,
Okay.
we got an extension from the IRS to be able to take it to the board.
Okay. And when will the next, 2010, that will be, when will we see?
That will be the end of, the next, this is for '09.
Yes,
Our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th.
July, June.
So the next 990 will be for fiscal year 2010. So probably September, somewhere between September and November,
Okay.
that will get done.
Okay. All right.
This is just the first year that is being scrutinized because of the form changing and all the information. Going forward, pretty much should be a easy form to file.
Okay.
And my guess is if you sit on other not-for-profits, you probably start to see these coming your way
Okay. All right,
from
thank
them
you.
as well.
Any other questions at all from anybody? Can we have a motion to move this?
Sure, I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, it carries. And now let's talk about the item, action item 3, which is the conflict of interest policy. Howard, do you have
Right,
some
so-
more insight on this? This is
This-
also the
this-
first time we would be seeing this as trustees.
Right, and I mean, aside from the IRS suggesting that it's a good idea to have them, it is in general a good idea to have a conflict of interest policy. We are a public entity. The language in the conflict of interest policy is the recommended language that the IRS has produced. We have adopted this from a conflict of interest policy that was generated for the CUNY EDC. And I think it's pretty straightforward in its requirements. There is a signature page for all of the officers and trustees that they've received a copy
When will we
and will
be
file.
signing this as trustees?
As soon as we approve it.
Okay.
You can sign the copy that's in the book, or we'll send them out and get them back.
Okay. What's the best way to handle that? Sign this copy and?
Why don't we send it out and you can return it?
I think I like that better.
Yeah.
Just
Give you a chance
from
to
an
read
official
it.
standpoint.
Yeah. Also, this will comply with the new requirement, or the requirement of the amendments to the public authorities law in New York State also requires a conflicts of interest policy, and so this will satisfy both of those requirements.
Do we have a conflict of interest policy for the trustees for the community?
It's called Code of Conduct, and we don't get signatures, but it's part of the manual of general policy. And we should distribute it every year.
Part of the
to remind people.
orientation. for
Yeah,
the
we do it
trustees.
during orientation, but it's probably a good idea to distribute it every year.
Yeah, I think it should be every year.
Yeah. It is in effect a summary of the state ethics law. It's not significantly different.
Any other questions from any of the trustees? Can we have a motion to move this item? You're moving it?
I'll second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? The next item, action item 4, is the resolution of the construction fund authorizing a consulting contract for the design and supervision of the reconstruction of the Queens College electrical distribution system. And I'll just read the resolve that the Board of Trustees authorizes the Executive Director to execute a consulting contract with the firm AKF Engineers LLP for professional design and construction-related services as required for the Queens College electrical distribution upgrade at Queens College. The contract costs shall be chargeable to the State Capital Fund for an amount not to exceed $1 million, and the contract shall be subject to approval to form as required by the Department of General Counsel. Vice Chancellor, would you want to?
Queens College has for many years experienced a number of power outages on the campus. And this is not just a Queens College issue. We have a similar problem at Queensborough Community College as well. Many of the buildings have been affected by this power problem. And now with the addition to Remsen and the new dorm that we put on Queens College, the time more than ever is here to be able to do this upgrade. And I might point out that, you know, with all of the state of good repair projects that we're involved in, probably the ones that are the most important for the campuses have to do with electrical upgrades as well as HVAC. So this is a prime example of when you don't really deal with the maintenance of your system, what will happen over time. And so, although it's not a sexy project, it's not one that you'll see you building up and operating. It really goes to the guts of operating a facility like Queens College. So we're very excited about this project and hopefully we can get started very quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? I'll move it. Second? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. And the next item, I have a revision. Does every trustee have a revision?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then, this is the resolution of the construction fund authorizing a contract for construction management build services for the renovation of field building at Baruch College, 17 Lexington Avenue in Manhattan, Phase 1. And, so why don't you,
Sure.
give the explanation, please?
I think as everybody on this board knows, the premier sort of icon for Baruch College is 17 Lex, which was the original building of the college. As a matter of fact, it was the original site of City College as well. It was the City College facility, 17 Lex. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Queens first is the first
Yeah.
building in City College.
And it was actually built.
1849.
It was built for, the site first had a
City
city college, and then the building that's there was actually built as a college
City
facility. As part of the master plan that we concluded last year for Baruch College, it became very clear that 17 Lex needed upgrading on many different levels, both to the base building operations of 17 Lex, as well as trying to enhance the space and increase the space that's in the building. We received from the state $40 million in our last 5-year plan for Baruch, in particular for 17 Lex. And we've come up with the first phase of the work that we would like to do at 17 Lex, which again goes to the base building issues, the HVAC, the elevators, the lighting in the building. And so in order to do this work, it requires us to get a construction manager on board. And the college and CUCF and CUNY did an RFP. We went out with a very extensive RFP. Lero was the company that was identified by the committee as one that they would like to see do this work. Lero has done work for CUNY before. They are currently working on Fitterman Hall.
They were involved in the deconstruction of Fitterman Hall, and they were also the construction manager for the Sodler or the Spitzer School of Architecture at City College.
We have a lot of experience with them, and they are a preeminent construction firm in the city. And in light of the fact that this is going to be a renovation while we're still using the building, the committee felt that this was a firm that was able to do this work. And so we're asking for permission to go ahead with this firm so that we can do the pre-construction and the construction management services for the project. Anything else, Bob?
I just wanted to add, I mean, it was about a year ago that we approved and engaged Davis Brody Bond to do the design. They were about 60% done with the design. This is the right time to bring the construction manager in so that we can make sure that what the designer is designing we can build. So, and that the budget estimates are consistent between the construction people and the architects. So we're at the right time, and that's why we're doing the construction.
And let me just say that, we have our priority list that we go to the legislature to get more money for projects, and this is on the list. 40 million is clearly not going to do the job completely. The renovation calls for an infill building to be put at 17 West, which will be very costly, but nonetheless needed for the college. And so what we're anticipating is that there'll be a phase 1, phase 1A, 1B, then phase 2, 3, 4. We could probably go out to 4 phases with this project. So, by doing the base building work first, it will allow those who are still in the building to at least have some modern amenities that they don't have now. As an example be, there's no air conditioning. It's all units in the building. I mean, it's a highly inefficient building to continue to have.
The two fundamental things that have to be addressed, kind of first off, are the central air conditioning and the elevator, the vertical transportation in the building. And as Iris said, the part of the project is an infill area which will fundamentally provide the ability to bring that infrastructure into the building, because we have to maintain all of the services while we're doing all of these renovations. So that's the first step.
And I might note that this last week, Davis Brody-Bond presented to us for the first time the design of what this infill building will look like, and we will be sharing that with the college community at Baruch as well as the central administration of King.
Very good.
And just to add one thing, what Bob pointed out, we're trying to we want to bring the CM on now because we really need the services during design. And since we don't have the full funding in place to proceed with construction, as we get ready to go to construction, and assuming we do get the funding needed, we will bring that back to the board for a review.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, the historical character of the building is being preserved?
Yes, it will not be changed. The one feature that will be different than the rest of the building will be the infill, and we have to sort of correspond with...
backside of it.
Right, we have
And
to
there's one on the front
correspond
also.
with the historical nature of the building. We don't want to change it dramatically, yet we are looking for modern conveniences and modern design concepts when it comes to this infill.
The other thing I'd like to say, I mean, the original building was built around 1928, 29. In 1953, there was a renovation done on Lexington Avenue, which added steps to enter the building. Part of the proposal is to basically go back to the original design intent to have the at-grade entrance on Lexington Avenue, which will allow us to have ADA access in the building in a way that we don't now have it. So, I mean, we're really going back as opposed to,
The other thing, Benno, is that when this other renovation was done in the 50s, they changed the windows, and as part of the plan that the architect has come up with, we're going to go back to the historical, original windows. Of course, they'll be of upgraded nature, but they're much more open and expansive in terms of opening the building up to the community. If you walk by it now, it's a very closed-in building. It does not have an open feel.
And hopefully the visual aspect from the exterior will be the removal of the window.
And not to mention, we have to make the building ADA accessible, which now does have some issues.
first public college in the country. Not this building, that one was demolished, but that's the site.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move the matter.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. In terms of, just the only report that I have is that we're looking at April the 22nd at 10 a.m. For our next meeting. If you could just note that, and as we usually do, we'll have somebody call just to make sure that that date is okay.
April 22nd?
Yes, at 10 a.m. It's a Thursday. And then I'd like to go to
10 a.m., not 11.
Yeah, so is that you can make it at 11?
No, that's fine.
we just sort of, Dr. Maxwell, what we do, we always try to just pick a time in advance, and then we have somebody call everybody just to make sure that they're. I'd like to go to the executive director report, and what I'd like, if somewhere in your report, can you, I guess Rick was here, but can you tell us about the law school
Yes, I have it
situation?
on-
You have that?
I have it on my
okay.
list already.
Okay, good. But the other item that you can report on is that maybe somebody can, if not now, later, but any groundbreakings. Remember the last meeting, we wanted to just try to know somehow in advance
Right.
what the groundbreakings were so that trustees can attend. You may not have that schedule right now, but
Right.
if you're anticipating anything that might be occurring, so we can be looking out for it,
Sure.
maybe you can report on that, too.
Great, thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Well, we have been very busy working both on the city and the state budget. On the state side, I think as everybody read, both the state senate and the assembly each passed different resolutions regarding the budget. I guess from CUNY's viewpoint, the one consistent aspect that stayed in both resolutions was funding our state of good repair for the next phase of funding, which is about $284 million. On the state budget side, there have been no project-specific allocations, so we are still waiting to see what the outcome will be, whether the state, either the Assembly or the Senate would be willing to do projects. And as I noted before, we have our priority list that we hope, at least maybe one or two of those projects could be funded. But we are talking up in Albany, and we're going around sharing our list. On the city side, we were very fortunate with the preliminary budget, which was passed in January, to also get some state of good repair money for our community colleges. And now the process that we're beginning on is the executive budget. And our agreement with OMB was that going forward the next 5 years, that they would start to put more money in the budget for state of good repair, and we are hopeful that they will follow through with that. We've made much progress on many of our projects around the city. We're going to go visit John Jay after this, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people from Turner and from our own staff to explain the progress of John Jay. But let me just say that the one constructional building up at Bronx Community College is making tremendous headway. It's moving along very quickly. At Fitterman, we're almost finished with the foundation work. We're hoping in the next few months that the steel will start going up. At ASRC, we're working at a rapid pace. If anybody goes up to City College, it is a massive construction site. The steel is going up, and I'm sure Mike will talk about the curtain wall contract that we hope will start soon and will follow in suit in terms of the progress of the construction. At Lehman College, the science building is in construction. We've had some difficulty, to be honest with you, with the contractor who's doing the foundation work. And although that project started before Bronx Community College is now ahead of Lehman. But we believe we've gone through the worst with the contractor, and we'll hopefully be able to pick up some steam. And lastly, the School of Social Work, our first very successful public-private partnership, is making a lot of progress. The foundation work should be done in the next few weeks, and steel will start going up in May in that project. And we're pretty confident that we'll get that building open for the 2011 academic year. I just want to note two completed projects that we were able to turn over to campuses for the spring term. Remsen Hall Addition at Queens College was handed over, and we went out there, and it's heartwarming to see all these students actually using these labs, and it's a great building. And as part of the building, we created a lot of student space, and when you go out there, we were told by the college that students who don't even have a class in that building go to sort of hang out in the student space that we created. So
Boy, that's a long distance from when I was there. We would run away from them. So. We had classes there.
So the phase 2 of this project now is to renovate the old Remsen, which we're going to start to begin that work. And the other project that we completed and we handed over is Roosevelt House. We just found out the last couple of weeks we got the TCO for that building, and already Hunter is using the facility as much as they possibly can. And I would suggest that maybe we should have one of our CUCF board meetings there.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it would be a great facility.
Only seen the outside, I haven't been inside.
Inside is
It's phenomenal, and I have to say, the renovation work that was done is just great, so, I'm
Yeah,
gonna-
let's have a meeting there, that would be good.
Yeah, that would be good.
Let's make it our next meeting.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can arrange it, we will, because we have to be able to, I'm sure they have the ability there to do,
Yeah, related to.
that work. CUNY Law School, we are, moving expeditiously to try and close this deal. There are actually two closings that need to take place. One is with Citibank to acquire the real property from them, and the second is to do the bond financing for the project. I guess like any real estate transaction, you get down to the wire, and it's sort of like getting something to a sieve. You've got to work it through, but I am hopeful that this project will close the second week in April, and then we will be able to then do the bond financing, which I think for the new members, it's the second time in CUNY's history that CUNY will be circulating its own bonds. And we had a bond rating meeting with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and I'm looking at Jennifer, I don't know if I could actually.
It's still confidential.
It's still confidential. Let me just say the rating was superb. And it really went to, I believe, the true success of CUNY. And both bonding agencies were so impressed with both the progress that CUNY has made, that I think this board and the CUNY board will be very pleased when the bond rating comes out. It's really a tremendous boost. For the
Yeah,
university.
that's very good.
When I was president of Yale had a terrible bond rating. And we went to work, we went to work on it, and about 3 years or so into my time there, we got the bond agency to give us the highest rating. I reported this at the next faculty meeting, thinking, boy, this is really great. And the faculty looked at me as if, I was, what are you talking about? What do we care about that?
Well, I think, also, there was an article this past Monday about CUNY Law School in the Times, and I would say that the majority of the faculty and the students are extremely pleased about being able to go to this new facility.
Is a legal suit been filed against them?
No.
Just complaints?
Yeah, just don't, let's
Okay.
hope not.
Okay.
Anyway, so, if all goes well, again, we hope to have this facility available to the law school for the fall term of 2011, if we'll be able to complete the work program.
Just for the trustees, the nature of the complaint that is against this, and I think the trustees should know.
I guess the best way to characterize it is that it's too opulent and too corporate a facility. And quite frankly, in my line of business, I don't know how something can be too corporate or too good for CUNY. The building was built as a training center. It's got numerous classrooms. It's got a large auditorium that can be used not only for the law school, by the community, as well as other CUNY campuses can use it. Clearly it is a spectacular design and really adds to the neighborhood of Long Island City. And, up the block, it seems we're gonna have JetBlue as a neighbor now, because they're taking over the MetLife building. So, we believe that we're gonna add to the vitality of Long Island City. Any of the staff who's been out there have just, been in awe of this facility. It will really take the law school. I might note that the chancellor pointed out to me that the ABA came in for their review of the law school, and they said that by going into this facility, it will even further raise the rating and the positive aspect of the CUNY Law School. So.
And I want to say that JetBlue hires so many of our students.
Exactly. So, and there's also, right across the street, there's a courthouse.
That's right.
That's currently used, so it's a great,
It's a great neighborhood.
and it's also a great
What
opportunity.
is going to be that
tower just north of, on the former garage. Do you know what that building's called? Right by the elderly turns.
You talk, the tower that's going up?
Yeah.
That's gonna be a city agency is going in there. I think it's the Department of Health is going in there, if I'm not, it's the Department of Health. And that was one of the sites that we had originally looked at.
Oh, really?
But the developer wanted $100 million more than what we're purchasing this site for, to construct the law school for us, actually an adjacent site that they own.
Yeah.
So,
I used to work for the architect that designed the original garage.
Oh,
We went
wow.
over this site. They had, I don't know how many feet of solid concrete underneath the garage.
no.
That's why they didn't, it's not an easy foundation.
That's a Tishman's Fire project.
Roughly how big is the law school?
260,000 square feet. We're taking 6 floors in the building, and Citibank will retain the rest of the floors. I think there's a total of, Jennifer, 12 floors in the building?
No, it's more like
15, so they're retaining the rest of the floors, and they're also retaining the air rights, associated with this project was not only this building, but the ability for Citibank to build up, and they're gonna retain the air rights to the rest of the building.
You mentioned, refresh my memory, this is the second time we issued bond. When was the first time we issued a bond?
For John Jay, Karen Hall.
It's a certificate of participation project,
It was in
which we
early
just paid
1980s.
off.
We just
in
paid
August.
off, I was gonna say that, we just paid off those bonds, so.
How long was what was the term of the bond?
20 years?
You know, I don't know when it restarted, I know it was refinanced in '95.
Yeah, and it started around 85.
So, and just one last thing, we are bringing to the CUNY board a new master plan for the College of Staten Island at our board meeting. And, we're very excited about this master plan because, the college out at Staten Island, both, is very much anticipating a dorm being built as well as a new building, a computational science building. So we're very excited equally about bringing this new master plan to the college of Staten Island.
Okay, very good. Any, thing on?
I have nothing on
Groundbreaking?
groundbreaking. As
Nothing.
soon as we know, I will let you know.
Okay.
I mean, probably the next thing that will happen will be ribbon cuttings, probably for Maker Evers, because that's gonna be ready for occupancy in
In May,
September.
but,
Right.
yeah, but I mean, DASNY's handing the building over to us in May, and, hopefully the college will be moving into the fall term, so Bob is right.
Okay.
Long time coming.
Yeah.
Do you have a schedule for the building of the graduate student apartments and the faculty apartments up in Harlem?
It's a very good question. The answer is yes. We have arrived in an agreement with the graduate school as well as the developer who's doing the social work school for us. So Brodsky is also through the contract. Maybe, Jennifer, maybe you want to talk about the schedule?
Sure, we actually just got our foundation permit. Part of the arrangement is that the Graduate Center Foundation is putting up half of the cost of the project with equity, so we can start the project before we actually issue bonds through HDC. So, design is complete. We just pulled the foundation permit this week, so we'll begin that work next week. And we'll do about an 8-week schedule, and then we'll start construction. But the idea is that that project moves in parallel with the social work school, so it will be ready for occupancy the summer of 2011.
And there'll be 100 plus beds in there for graduate students. And I know that Bill Kelly is very excited about this project, as are we, to be able to have the synergy with the school and then have graduate students living right adjacent to it.
That's great. Thank you very much. Mike, do you want to give a report?
Yeah, just to pick up on what Iris was saying about ASRC, on the structural steel, about half of the steel has been fabricated to date. About 100, maybe 1,900 tons have been erected to date. Up until now, the steel has been erected on the CCNY building. We should start erection on the ASRC building probably in 2 weeks. So we're going to mobilize a new crane that'll be stationed on St. Nicholas Terrace, that will start the steel erection in the SRC.
But it's quite a presence. I mean, the CCNY building is up to the 3rd floor now, but these are not normal floor plates where it's like 12 feet or so. These are like 16, 17 feet between. So it's a big building.
I tell you, it's a massive construction site when you go
It's a
up
very
to it.
big site.
Yeah.
Are you seeing construction costs continuing to fall, or are they
To
stabilizing?
date, yes.
Continuing to fall?
As far as
Yes.
curtain wall is, it used to be you had to wait.
wait.
Now you can actually get curtain wall. You know, 3 years ago, you would have to wait a year before you could see
This time,
it.
where are you getting it from?
Well, for that one, it's Permo Rista is the curtain wall supplier, fabricator, erector. They'll have that contract. What I wanted to do was to show you a little bit about John Jay before we actually took a walkthrough. I'm going to kind of fly through this stuff, but I didn't want to hold you too long. I thought we were going to have till later, so it's a longer presentation. We tried it out a little bit.
Stuff is so technical, you have to glaze it on the frame.
This is the rendering of John Jay, and you're looking east of 159th Street. That's that same rendering that's on the right there. It's the largest single project that in the CUNY program with respect to number of square feet being added. There's 620,000 gross square feet being added under this project. Right now we're in contract with 16 prime contractors working. Right now there's about 250 people per day working on the site, so it's very active at this point in time. We'll go through the outline. I want to save some time, so I'm going to flash through a bunch of these. Okay, so just a little history on John Jay. It started back in '54. Actually started putting out degrees in '64. Then part of CUNY in '65. It's been around for quite a while, and it's very specialized. And the specialty of this college kind of reflects the programming, which is very unique programming for the grade. So it's really very well known in its field, and it's often quoted in papers and journals on crime and criminal justice. Also, recently with CSI and Bones and that kind of stuff, a lot of kids are very interested in forensic science. So you're seeing a huge amount of people that want to get into this field, and the student enrollment is growing very, very quickly at John. This is the existing site. It not only shows the site itself, but it shows the existing building that's adjacent to it. There's Harron Hall. Harron Hall is actually made up of two parts. There's the original part, which is around the turn of the century. Then there was an addition done in late '80s, which is what we were talking about with that bonding. So those two parts. Now you have North Hall, which is, it used to be, I guess, a shoe factory, and at some point in time, I guess in the '80s, they renovated that building. It's a very difficult building to work with, and it's really not the greatest facilities in the world. What one of these benefits of this project is that we'll be able to get a lot of people out of that building into the new building. And also you have lease space that's being done in this building that we're sitting in, and also another building by John Jay, which is a substantial amount of square feet. This will also be
Two other buildings,
Two
and
other
they'll
buildings
keep
now,
them.
yeah.
They're not emptying them.
Yeah. I think this is instructive to show you how utilized that facility is. What it gives you is different CUNY campuses. Now, CUNY campuses in general are much more utilized than other colleges. If you look at CUNY's college's utilization, number of square feet per student or FTE, it's generally that way. But when you look at this, you'll see John Jay is at about 42 net assignable square feet per FTE. And relative to the other colleges, you can see where that sits. The other thing that's interesting to note is that the other ones that are pretty low down there, like BMCC and what else? Mega Evers is another one that has a very low number on that. We have new buildings going up in those locations, which will also help with this particular type of problem.
So Mike, I presume that's without the Fetterman Hall, right?
Correct.
Now,
So once
if
Fetterman
you were
Hall
to
is
throw in
built-
Fetterman Hall, does it bring it up to par?
It's still gonna be,
Still gonna be
it's
low.
still gonna be the
It'll be
lowest. It will be the
Still be the
lowest.
But there are-
Because,
They have a very large student body, I mean, and, you know, and the space is kind of
But you
limited.
also get some economies with that. Like, when you have a gym and you have a small number of students, it pumps up the number. So somewhere like Ostos with a very small enrollment looks a lot higher because you build a gym at the size a gymnasium needs to be. When you get to large campuses, you get some of that differentiation. And for BMCC, certainly 40 is too low. When it goes up to 45 or so, when Fitterman comes on, it'll still be low. But that size of a campus will always bring it down somewhat because of how high the enrollments are.
this aerial photograph of the site and the surrounding area. A couple of things to note is that there's the railroad tracks. If you look where it says West End Avenue and just left of that, you see the tracks coming out above grade at that location. And then at the corner of our site, the tracks were actually an open cut, and you could look down. You know, a couple of years ago, you could actually look down and see the track. And that was one of the very important challenges on this project. The other one was the geology of the site, and I can talk a little bit about that, and also how that site was used, you know, many, many years ago, and how that affected what we could do and how we could do it. So there's a huge amount of challenge in working at this site that we just want to talk about a little bit. What you're looking at is a 1924 aerial photograph of that site. And at that time, you had these huge gas storage tanks there. Now, the gas storage tanks aren't a problem, but one thing that used to happen with gas storage facilities was they also did some production of gas. And that creates a situation where you could find cyanides and heavy metals in the soil. And before we started the project, obviously, we knew that, and we anticipated that, and thankfully it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but we did have to deal with some contaminated soil in that respect. The other thing was the geology, and the rock in this area drops off very severely towards the river. And the other thing is that there's serpentine rock. And serpentine rock is a very soft rock, and it's kind of green, and the reason it's called serpentine is because you have these veins in it. And in those veins is naturally occurring asbestos. So that when we're putting in the caissons where we're digging through, we had to take into account from an environmental standpoint how to do that. There were special regulations in how we did that, special requirements of the people that were working on it. And what it did was add to how fast something could be done and how carefully it had to be done and how it had to be monitored. So whenever we did caissons, which were many, many caissons on this site, we had to deal with that kind of aspect also. These two photographs, the one on the left is the open cut that was there, and the black building that you're looking at is this building. So the site is on the left of that. What I wanted to point out is how close we had to build next to these existing train tracks. We were within feet of the existing train tracks when we put our caissons down and our footings for this building. Because eventually what we're going to do is, look what it's already been done, is this is all now enclosed and it's covered by the building. So we're trying to do this with Amtrak and scheduling and when we could do it and restrictions on how we could do it was very challenging and also required a lot of coordination. The other thing was that when we took the land, there was a parking garage. That's on the right-hand side. That's the original parking garage. And during the time before, when the land was acquired and the time we started construction, parking garage was in use, but it was a rental, so it was under a lease. And we did run into some delays due to trying to have that tenant leave that property because they were making money, so they particularly want to leave. So that also added to the delays in starting the project. The project objectives, obviously consolidation of the college, because now it's basically a college is going to be 1 square block. What you're doing is putting in a campus in a building, basically. So this building will have everything that you could possibly think of as far as student services, laboratories, classrooms. It's a very unique building, and I think it has a lot of potential. The other thing I want to note is that it slopes on this site. There's about a 30-foot difference in elevation between the east and the west side of that site. So what happens is, on the east side of the site, the excavations have to go very, very deep. So when we're doing our excavations on the east side of the site, it's a very deep excavation, and the foundation walls are very, 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 very loose. The elevation, this is looking south, and the main entrance to the facility on this side of the building.
And I guess Mike will show it later on, but there are a lot of accommodations for student life in this
Yes.
building.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I will show that.
Which is a very big plus, particularly for John Jay, and particularly for any CUNY facility.
Yeah, they have the registrar, bursars, career development, counseling, bookstores, a whole bunch of stuff. It's all on that first floor. In fact, I'll show you that first floor level. The site is about 500 feet.
The other thing I just want to point out is that if you notice that it's 5 stories, and then then there's the high rise to the structure. What we work with DASNY on is that we have put the foundations in, so if CUNY over time decides they want to build up that 5-story portion, we can do it. There's enough
We have about 400,000
capacity.
FAR buildable space.
that we didn't use.
That we didn't use on building this building. So the logical place to put the next building, whenever that is on the space that we already own. So we've got the foundations to support that.
Yeah, so right now, the foundations are sized, so you could build that straight across at that same elevation. So it's that much extra capacity in the foundations on that side. This is what Iris was talking about, as far as, this is the first floor plan. It shows both the existing building, that's the green, and the new building. The arrow on the top is the entrance, and on this floor, you have all those amenities that we were talking about as far as student services and support services, counseling. Because it's police go here, there's a lot of counseling involved, and special things that you don't usually see in a college. So it kind of, and as you can see, the types of facilities that are in this building are quite varied. You have specialty laboratories, you have research laboratories, you have forensics, you have fire.
You have a moot court.
Prevention, you have a moot court. In fact, one of the floor plates, I think it's the next one, yeah, actually shows a moot court. So the moot court's on the right in the center. This also, this concept of a vertical campus, so that you have the law, police sciences, and the math quad, they run vertically, so that you can go from floor to floor within a discipline, but then across the hall, across the building, is a different discipline, so that the interaction of disciplines is supposed to be promoted in this way. And you create a lounge area or a meeting area in the middle, so that that interaction is helped along. So that's the old and the new. So from a block, it looked better in the diagram, the simpler diagram. There's the lower part of that 5-story section is called the podium, and that's 320,000 gross square feet. Then the podium, this cube, which is that square element that sits on the podium, is the other element of that building. This is a cross section through a model. So we're sitting on the east side looking west. That flight of stairs is called a cascade, so you see that. And that promotes the connection between the existing building and the new building. At the top of the podium is going to be a green space, so that it'll function as a courtyard and a meeting place for the people to use. So it is the quad.
Very nice.
Mike, maybe you want to talk about the stairway that we put in there?
Which one?
Stairs.
Yeah, the one that, well, there's two sets, right? The one that you can see now at the upper level, and I'll show you some aerial photographs of the existing construction, is the one that's at this top level that goes on to that courtyard.
It goes
And
up to the
then-
cafeteria so the students will be able to come outside in good weather and really use that.
And then there's the second set, which is the cascade, which is at the lower level, which will be escalators and also stairways.
So students could either take the stairs or take escalators or sit on the stairs and congregate. And it's a much better alternative for us than just requiring students to use an escalator or an elevator. Which, by the way, we're putting in a lot of our buildings. And we find putting this option in, it really makes a lot more sense.
Right, the stairs, especially from Baruch.
Yeah, we did it at the School of Social Work also. We put a stair in so that they could basically use
Yeah.
that as opposed to using the elevators in the
Right.
building.
And it's actually used a lot on those existing buildings. This is an interior shot looking toward the cascade. You're at the existing building, looking west. There's going to be a very large skylight on the side of the building, which is what you're seeing through there. You're seeing the cube through that skylight. These are some interesting statistics about the building. It's a massive project. Now we have some photographs of what went through, and top left is where you start, and you kind of rotate clockwise around. So you're seeing some of the demolition on the existing garage in the top right and the lower right, and then you see that the garage has now been demolished on the lower left. Grading is started, and the foundation walls are started at that point in time.
Mike, how many caissons did you put in?
It's over 200.
A lot of caissons.
Yeah,
These
just
are
for,
some-
as a comparison, Fitterman Hall, it's only 43 caissons.
Mhm.
So there are over 200 here, so it's like 5 times the footprint.
It's a very big floor plate. It's a huge site. You can see the tracks again. You can get another idea. If you see the gentleman there on standing next to that box of wood, that's the foundation, footing for the new building. So you can see how close it is to those tracks. And you also can see the metal tube that's just above that. That's one of the caisson tubes for the foundation of the new building. And that drill rig there is just to do borings. We were actually trying to find out where the rock was, because the rock wound up being much lower than we thought. It dropped off like this. So actually we had to change our foundation design in that area because of that, because of how severely that rock dropped off at that location. And we weren't able to get access during design period because of the function of the railroads. So to be able to get access there, we had to demolish some walls that existed and regrade that whole site. So you can see how, on the right-hand side, how much excavation had to be done to be able to get access to that location. And some more photographs of near the tracks and also overall what's going on. Now these are the caissons we were talking about. As you can see, those reinforcing cages that are on the right, the rebar in those are about like that. So each rebar is a pretty large size. Those are very, very heavy. And they're about 70 feet, 60 feet long in some places. It depended on where on the site, but caissons went down very deep in some locations. It's early in 2008. Now, if you see on the right-hand side, the track is now covered. So early in 2008, the track had been covered, and we had put in the precast panels to cover that track location. On the left, top left, that's some of the piers for that in that area, and also the lower left. That's also some piers in that area that support that precast structure that covers the railroad tracks. In these photographs, you see when we first started erecting the crane. So on the left-hand side, you see the tower crane on the west side of the site, and the cores on the right-hand side, just below and above the crane, you see the cores of the building starting construction. And there goes the steel. I'm just going to go through these so you can see the progression. It'll kind of be like time-lapse photography.
You all may recall that there were some crane accidents around this time, and it took a little longer than
It took us a lot longer.
desired to get permission to put the crane up.
We had two cranes up.
It took 4 months longer to get the crane on the first one because they were rearranging what you had to do to be able to get the permits to start the cranes. So we lost 4 months.
The other two crane accidents happened like a week before we were supposed to put the crane up. So you can imagine how difficult it became to do that.
At this point, you have 2 cranes, one on the west side and one on the east side. One thing I wanted to point out that's very interesting about this building is that the upper floors of the building on the exterior perimeter upper floors are really supported from the roof structure. There's steel that comes up and sort of like an umbrella. We build this truss work at the upper level that you're hanging the upper levels of this floor. It allows for architectural features like these cutouts in the side of the buildings, large overhangs. It also damps vibration from the railroad. We don't have to worry about the transmission of vibration as much because of that. So it's a very unusual design feature for this building. And if you see that lower plate there, that's a gusset plate, you get an idea of the size of the connections that were involved in this truss that's at the upper level of this, to be able to do that, to have the umbrella, the top of that umbrella, what it's made out of. So it just kind of gives you a scale. You see the guy's foot next to it, you know? It's a lot of holes. It's a lot of bolts. At this point, you can actually see that truss work starting at the top. You can see the cross bracing. And on the right, you can see it being constructed. At this point, you see the curtain wall going in. This was in December. Top floor is out. You have decks on top floor. And this is a more recent photograph where you can see that exterior stair on there, what it is now. And the cooling tower's in place. At this point, all the major mechanical equipment is in that building already. All the air handlers, chillers, so anything, all the major air handling units, the strobic fans for the fume hoods. So any large piece of equipment is pretty much in the building and at its location. And in fact, that was part of, we weren't able to bring up the curtain wall until that was done because of how this is hung. So when you load it, the whole building actually settles, right? You see? So to be able to get the alignment on the curtain wall, you actually had to wait till you had all the equipment in it before we could do that, so we wouldn't have compression on the curtain wall. And that's it.
No, it's
Okay.
wonderful. I tell you, I've been, one of my clients is Continuum Health Partners on the other side. So from there, I have been able to look down and just see all of the construction all along the way. And almost the bad part about that is that anytime there's anything that's happening over there, I'm getting phone calls. I got a phone call, I guess it was a fire there earlier this week, and I got a phone call about that, and I was in Minnesota.
Luckily you were in Minnesota.
But no, it's a massive, massive project. So thank you very much for taking the time to take us through that. I think what we're going to adjourn the meeting, and what we want to do is a walkthrough. I know that one or two of the trustees has another appointment, but how long will the walkthrough be? I mean, just.
It could
I mean, I know
be,
you
it could be very
here all
long, it
day,
could be
but-
very short.
Yeah.
I don't know, we could gear it towards what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, how much you see is
Right.
dependent on how much time you have.
Okay.
We keep it on the lower level, it could be relatively quick if you want to go up to the top.
How many
of
trustees
it.
do we have that wanna go?
I want to go, but I have to go down to City Hall. I have to leave at 12:30 to head downtown.
Probably you wouldn't even get to the
12.
site till 12:30. And if, maybe we should
Reschedule.
reschedule it?
Yes.
Yeah, and I know that
Yeah, I
Benoff
can't.
has to go.
Okay.
When's the finish date
It's
projected?
winter 11-12. It's
So
2 years from,
figure-
About a year.
yeah, about it, no, 2 years.
Figure
Oh,
that
yes,
the
2
school
years.
won't get it till, the fall
Ah,
term
got
of
it.
2012 will be the time that they'll go into the building. And then North Hall will be emptied out. And our plan is now not to backfill North Hall, to keep it empty. And that's gonna be one of the sites that we're considering for the new community college.
So you're suggesting to postpone it to the next
Yeah,
one?
I think so, if you have to be in City Hall and.
Yeah, and I don't control those times.
Right, okay, great.
think Mike's presentation was.
That was great.
Yeah,
I felt like I was
very
there.
good.
That was excellent.
Very good.
They all saw that.
There's one interesting story in this relating to Amtrak and the piece that goes over the railroad track. So we had to get Amtrak's permission, and they came back to us. I mean, you'll recall the train line used to be completely visible, and then one by one they let luxury apartment buildings be built and covering over pieces of the track. We were one of the last
This building
in
is
line.
directly over the tracks.
And so they said to us, well, you know, there's a fire safety issue now that the tracks are almost completely covered over, and we expect you to assume the obligation for any remediation that needs to be done. And they wouldn't tell us what it was or how much it would cost. So we pointed out to them that they had permitted all these luxury buildings to be built without imposing any obligation on them, and that we, being the City University of New York, were somewhat underfunded and served a largely poor and minority and immigrant population, and that it was a bloody outrage that they should be imposing this obligation on us when they hadn't had the foresight to impose it on anybody else, and that we thought that the elected representatives in the Senate and Congress who oversaw Amtrak might see this in our light. It also happened to be at a moment when Iris Wanshall had just become our vice chancellor, and eventually, after a lot of pushing and shoving, they came back to us and said, okay, go ahead and build.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't tell them that I was on the fund at that time, because I live in one of those buildings. We fought very hard.
But they still do have one open space as it goes across
There
Eleventh
is,
Avenue
yes.
until Extel builds the 5 buildings that they want to put up on that site.
I will tell you, dealing with Amtrak, it's really, you know, the Wizard of Oz. They really are the wizard behind you never know quite, you know, who you're dealing with, what the issues are. You know, it's like they are nameless and faceless, and all they do is say no, and the answer says no.
That was very difficult. We made a lot of trips to Philadelphia on that one.
Yeah,
And
eventually.
we actually had an agreement from the past owner, which was still in place, that required only a certain minimal ventilation requirement. That was, they said, we don't care. We don't care if there's an agreement that's binding.
Well,
It's
thank
amazing.
you again very much. And what we usually like to do for new trustee is that to be able to actually visit the building so we could see it and touch it, and not just deliberate on numbers. So our apologies for the staff that made preparations for us to.
Don't worry, it's okay.
to
Most of them are over there already anyway. That's their job.
We'll
They
be there
work
anyway.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So
we'll send a nicer day, because it's a little chilly out there today.
Yeah, we'll do it in the weather. So I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
and enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of the, hopefully everybody has a very nice weekend.
Yeah.
In Albany, too.
Thank you, have a nice weekend.
You too.
Bye, Zach.
Hi, Zach.
Okay.
Been out to work.
Bill?